Okay, this is the Canvas Gradebook and Speedgrader session. In this session, we will demonstrate how to configure the gradebook to provide students timely information on their progress in the course, how to organize assignments into groups and set group weights to match a grading scheme, use the gradebook tools to improve your grading workflow, and use the Speedgrader to provide students feedback on submissions. So creating the gradebook in Canvas begins in assignments, but for this session, we're going to assume that you have the information already on how to create an assignment and using the assignments index page. Oh, let me go back. So this is the link to the slides for this workshop. So pause the video and pop these slides open. You can click these links and they will take you into the guides that relate to this. So if you have questions about creating an assignment or editing an assignment or adding rubrics, those guides are all going to be in this slide presentation. I'm not going to cover those at this point. Okay, so I do want to cover a few of the features on the assignments index page. And the first one we're going to go over is creating a group. So this is the assignments index page, and I have already created mini groups. The way you add a group is this button right here. You click plus group and you name it. Once you have created groups, you have the ability to weight the groups based on the final grade. So let me go back in and demo that. So these three dots are the menu button on this assignments index page. If I click that, I can assign group weights. If you check this box, it will allow you, I'm going to save that so you can see what this looks like if the gradebook has no weighting. So this is just a straight gradebook with strictly points. So each of these assignments is going to count proportionally to all of the other assignments, just a basic straight points gradebook. If I go in and I say I want to weight the final grade based on assignment groups, I put in these values and Canvas conveniently tells me they total up to 100. Any zero weight group will not count at all. So you can use that as a storage area or to put maybe last year's assignments that you don't want to use but don't want to delete. So that is how you weight the gradebook. The last piece I just wanted to demonstrate here is that you can move these groups. So these 8 dots right here in this assignments index page, you can use to move the groups as well as move assignments within the groups. So you can delete a group by clicking right there and hitting delete. Okay, so that pretty much sums up the topics that were on this slide. So that is creating a group, moving and reordering group, and weighting the gradebook. There's a couple more features that I wanted to talk about that are on the assignments index page before we move on to the gradebook. And the first one is this new bulk update assignment. So again, that I'm going to pop into Canvas here. This is going to be under this 3 dots right here. So if I click there, there's a new feature here that says edit assignment dates. So when I click into that, it's going to take a minute to load. So it's going to load all of my assignments that I've created, including quizzes and discussions. Anything that I have put in here with that is labeled as graded, and I can change these dates all on this page now. You used to have to click into each assignment in order to update the dates. One of the really cool things about this is this batch edit button. So say I want to move the dates for all of my reflections. I can check these boxes. I can go to this batch edit and I want to shift the due dates all forward 30 days. So if I shift those dates, all of my due dates have now gone from June and July to July and August, and it moves all of the dates forward. The due date column, the available from column, and the available until column. So I can imagine this would be very Okay, sorry about that. So I can imagine that if you want to import your course from the spring semester and you want to move all of your dates forward into fall, you could just check this box, batch edit, and shift the days forward, 120 days, or you'd have to do a little math. But that seems like that would be super handy for shifting those dates forward from one term to another. The next thing is adding extra credit. So there's a really good guide here included in the slides on adding extra credit. The key to adding extra credit in Canvas is that it needs to be nested in a category with something that has point value. So you can nest extra credit assignments within like an exam category, but you can't create an extra credit category that counts all on its own unless you put an assignment in there that's worth at least 1 point. So if you have any questions about adding extra credit in Canvas, please just give us a call, or I guess send us a ticket. You can reach us at ctlhelp@humboldt.edu, and we will help you get that extra credit set up. It's a little bit quirky, so I just wanted to point that out to everyone. The last thing on this page is the ability to drop the lowest score. So I can imagine a situation where in my participation category, we are going to be doing I'm going to assign 15 weeks of discussions, but I'm only requiring 12 weeks of discussions. So if all my discussions are in the same category, I can go up here to the edit button within that category, and I can apply a rule. So here I've already applied it, drop the lowest 3 scores. This is a toggle, so you can change the number here. You can also tell it to never drop a particular assignment. So maybe my first discussion was required and a midterm discussion is required. And so I don't want those to be dropped. To add to that list, you can just click right there and pick from this drop down of the assignments that are in this category. So I'm going to save that. So I have now added 4 rules. So the rules it displays right here are to drop the lowest 3 scores and never drop 3 of those assignments. You can apply rules to each one of these categories. Okay, so now we're going to move into the actual gradebook. So there's a few things that I want to point out in the gradebook. So I'm going to move from the assignments index page right into grades in my Canvas course. Okay, so the Canvas gradebook is set up with students in rows and assignments in columns. So it can get very large and unwieldy after a while. Mine's starting to look pretty large here. So the first place I want to start is within each of these columns, there is another menu button. So these 3 dots appear when you hover up here near the title of the assignment. So the first thing I want to point out is this message students who. So if you click this, it's going to send out an email through the Canvas email system. You have 4 choices here. You can email students who haven't submitted, who haven't been graded, who have scored less than a particular score. So maybe I want to nudge the people who scored less than 25 on this. So it does indicate for you what those students are. You can drop students from this list. So maybe I already have spoken with test student 22 and test student 23. So I don't need to email those students. And here I can write my message to let them know what they might need to do to resubmit on this assignment or to try to get better points. So that is the message students directly from the gradebook. That one is really handy. The next one is curving grades. So that's again under this 3 dots. And here you can curve the grades. I'm going to just pick a column that actually has grades that are in a distribution. So I'm going to pick this column. So if I want to curve the grades, it's going to show me you know, if I had more students and if my grades were on, it would give me a better bell. But hypothetically, it gives you a bell, and you can adjust the grades by changing this value. The help guide has detailed information about the algorithm that's working there. The last thing under that menu is this setting default grade to quickly update your grades. So in Canvas, if you have a column that has dashes in it, so these dashes Canvas treats as an excused assignment. So anywhere you see a dash, that assignment is not counting for or against that student. It's just treating it as excused. So when I'm done with my grading, I've got these grades that I've entered here. I need to go in and set the default grade. This is the quick way to fill that column in the gradebook. So again, it's under this menu button within the column. I can set the default grade. It's going to open a dialog box for me. I'm going to set all the default grades to 0. So that's going to fill that whole column with zeros. It gives me an indicator to let me know how many scores were updated. I'm going to say okay, and my grading is now done for that column. So it's important to remember that you need to fill these grades. So in this column, maybe this is a participation score and everybody made it to class that day. So I could set that default grade to 15. So set the default grade there. You can set the default grade to whatever value you want, depending on how that makes your workflow work better. So maybe everybody came that day except for test student 20, and I'm just going to go in 21. I'm going to go in and change that one to a 0, and my grading is done for that column. So that's a pretty handy feature, is setting that default grade. So adding a grading schema to an assignment, this is the last topic that is on this page. And as you'll notice here, this column is graded with letter grades. So when you choose to grade with a letter grade, I'm going to click the title of this assignment here, and that's going to take me back into the assignments description page. So if I edit that, there we go. So when the default in Canvas is going to be that this display grade as is points. If you change it to letter grade, which this one is, it's going to fill this new option here that says view grading scheme. So you can select a grading scheme after you've created one. So the standard, this is the one that is default in Canvas. It's a standard A through F with pluses and minuses. I have added this straight letter one, so I've dropped the pluses and minuses, and I'm using just an A through F, and that's the one that I want to use for this class. So I just say use this grading standard, and it lets me know that it has updated that. You can edit these under this manage grading scheme and put in whatever scheme works for you and your particular grading plan. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Again, the very beginning of this presentation, I shared the link to the slide, so you will have links, the ability to find all of these links from the slide as at your leisure. So this next slide is all about the grade posting policy. So the grade posting policy is a way in Canvas so that you can mute announcements out to students while you're doing the grading. So Canvas by default is going to send a notice out to your students every time that you update a grade. So let's just say I'm ready to grade. Let's find a column here that isn't graded. I'm ready to grade these reflections. So when you're ready to begin grading, if you want to stop those notifications from going out, again, you click those 3 dots and you click into this grade posting policy. That's going to open a side tray. By default, it will be graded automatically. you're going to want to flip this to manual in order to stop those notifications from going out. It does tell you some information here that students will stop receiving notifications about their grades, changes to the grades, submission comments, whether or not you're curving assignments, and if you've changed scores. So it just puts everything on pause for them. So I'm going to go ahead and save that manual. Now, Canvas has added a little indicator here in the column that says manual to let me know that this particular column is being graded manually. Now I can go in and I can update some scores. Okay, so as soon as I started putting scores in, you'll notice that this little I with a line through it has appeared here in the column. That's to indicate that this column has grades that have been assigned but that have not yet been released, so hidden grades. So when I'm ready to release those grades, I again come to these three dots. And now this post grades is visible to me. It would have been grayed out before. So if I click post grades, it's going to tell me that I have 5 grades hidden. Each of these little orange indicators lets me know that those are the 5 grades that have been written but not been posted. I can post either to just the folks that I've graded or to everyone. I'm just going to post these graded students. If you're using cross-listed course, you can set this to be section specific. So I have, for example, a 9 a.m. class and an 11 a.m. class, and I have a grader who's just finished with the 9 a.m. class. I can set that here to release just those grades. But in this case, I'm going to just go ahead and release to everyone. It's going to run. If your gradebook's large, it may take it a little while. Okay. So the grades have been posted. The little I has disappeared here. So now it's still set to manual, but all of my grades are posted. So now say I decide I'm ready to go in and finish grading here, or I've decided I need to adjust some of these grades. I can click these 3 dots and I can hide the grades. When I hide the grades, I can either hide section specific again, or I can hide all. I'm going to hide them. And it can, when Canvas is done, the little I reappears, and that's how you can rehide grades. Again, if I want to post, it's going to put the indicator back in there. So that is the basics of the grade posting policy. I will warn that if you use manual with quizzes that have automatic release, so quizzes that have true, false, multiple choice, any of the questions that Canvas grades automatically, be very careful of using manual with those until the quizzes have all been submitted and are ready for grading, because it will stop that automatic feedback from going out to the students while you have it set to manual. So that's just a caveat there. Let's move on to the next slide. So this next slide is really about organizing the grades. So the first thing is how to sort and display student data. So all of the grading columns menus are the same. They are all menus too within the grades, but this column here that is the student names has a different menu when you press these 3 dots. So you can sort, you can change the sort order of your students. So you can sort A to Z or reverse the order. You can sort by username. So if I sort by login ID, then that's going to sort them by their HSU username. If I sort by SIS ID, that is going to sort them by their HSU ID. So we can also display that. So if I choose to display secondary information here and I choose SIS ID, then that does display their HSU username. Similarly, you can do it by login ID. So I could imagine this would be useful if you have 2 John Smiths in your class and you need to have their username in order to do the grading. So you can also display first, last, last, first. So whichever way is the easiest way for you to organize this gradebook with your students, that happens in this column. So this show inactive enrollments and conclude enrollments, that is not anything that's applicable to our Canvas instance. If your students drop a class in PeopleSoft, they're automatically dropped from Canvas. So we don't keep inactive enrollments within the class. So that was sorting and displaying student data. So the next place I want to show you in the gradebook is this gradebook button. So under this gradebook button, there are several little options here. One of them is to view the gradebook history. So this is handy, especially if you have a grader or multiple graders who are grading your assignments. You can go in and sort by the grader who, there's only one grader in my class. Anyway, by the graders' names will be there for the various graders. You can sort by student. So if I want this student and I want to look at his exam scores to see when they were changed, I can filter here and it will show me who has edited those grades from the beginning of the gradebook time until now. So that's really handy if you're trying to track down when changes were made to the gradebook. The next one under the grades tab. So I'm going to just go back to the main gradebook here by clicking the grades. And under this tab, gradebook, is this individual view. So the default view in Canvas is to view all of your students. So one way to view a singular student is to hit this individual view. And this is gonna have, this has some other settings and options that you can set. But down here, you can select a particular student and you can select a particular assignment. You know, maybe you're in office hours and you want to view this assignment just as an individual view. You can view the submission details here and you can get to the Speedgrader. So this is just one way of viewing this student's gradebook. You can view their category totals here in this view. And there's some more information about this particular assignment down here. So that's the individual view. Now, if you want to see the gradebook as your students see it, so sometimes you'll end up with a grade here that doesn't exactly match what the students see, and you need to go in and troubleshoot that and figure out why your grades are not matching what the students' grades are. So I'm going to go back into the regular gradebook. So I'm going to click gradebook here. It's going to take me back into this full view. I'm going to go ahead and click John's name here. So if I click their name and then I click this grades button right here, it's going to take me into the gradebook the way that the students see it. So here's his totals. The category totals are at the bottom. It's going to show me that, oh, I've got this exam score is hidden. That's why his grades don't look the same as mine do. If you see here, if they hover over it, it gives them an indicator that the instructor is working on grades. They can go in and view your feedback here. So if they click that little comments, they can view your, this is for overall feedback that you leave, and they can view how their score fell within their cohort. So this is a little chart that gives them the scoring details for each of these assignments. So that's how you find the student's view of the gradebook. Let's see where we are here. So the last button that I want to talk about is this using filters and views. So within this button here, so we've moved over, we're on the second button in from Gradebook, is this view button. I can rearrange, this is going to sort the columns of the gradebook. So I can rearrange the assignments by name. So when your gradebook gets really big and unwieldy, sometimes it's easier to sort them in a different order. So I'm going to just say, okay, I want to sort by A to Z. This is going to alphabetize my assignments. So maybe I want to work with something here at the front. I can sort in the other direction. I can sort by due date. So I can have the newest due dates to the front. So that's handy when your gradebook gets really large and unwieldy. This is only changing the view of this gradebook, so it is not affecting your assignment categories back in where we've set the gradebook up in the assignments area. The next thing I want you to notice is that I have these two boxes that are here. One that says all assignment groups and one that says all sections. I was able to turn those on by checking these boxes here under this filter. So if I have a course that has multiple sections, I can view the individual sections by clicking into one of these filters. So that is going to eliminate many rows of my gradebook and make it easier to manage. I can also do the same thing with the columns by only viewing a single assignment group. So if I click exams here, all of my gradebook has dropped off now except for the two assignment columns that are in the exams category. So these columns over here are all, they are for information purposes only, and they are the totals of your categories. So they're not editable. If I try to put my cursor in there, I can't edit them. So sometimes if you have this, a category that has the same name as an assignment, that can be a little confusing. But these category totals are going to give you a little information if you hover over them. So you can find out, how many points have been assigned in that particular category if you're trying to track down where points are missing. So I really like these two filters for getting that gradebook more manageable, especially as we head into the later parts of the term. Another one under view here is the unpublished assignments. So if I turn that on, that's a toggle as well. I'm going to go ahead and turn these off so that I can see all groups. I will warn you that both of these settings in here, these filters are what we call sticky, which means that they will stay selected if you go away and come back. So if you come back and you feel like, oh my gosh, I've lost half my students and I've lost half my gradebook, don't panic. See if you maybe have this set to be filtering part of it. So I've set these back to view everything, and now I've also turned on this view unpublished, and I've now got a whole bunch more columns of unpublished work. So that's handy to hide those. We're not using them. I like to hide those. So that is right here, this unpublished assignments. This other column is this notes column, which I have turned on. You can type brief notes in this column. They're only visible to you, and they don't, if you export the gradebook, the notes do not go with it. So it's just a little column for writing notes, maybe so you can help identify a student, especially in this virtual world where we're just going to have names and faces on Zoom. So that is this second button here, the view button. So I'll talk briefly about the statuses. So this is where you can possibly change the colors for the default Canvas notifications that are in the gradebook. So these pink are missing, excused, and the blue is late, right? Late. So Canvas automatically applies those labels based on your due dates and when the students make submissions. So that covers organizing the gradebook to improve workflow. There's a couple more policies that Canvas has recently added that you can apply globally to the gradebook. So this gear up in the top right corner, if you click that, there's a few things that I want to talk about here. The first thing is this late policy. So you can apply an automatic policy to apply a 0% to everything that is missing. So if your students go past the due date, it's automatically going to put a 0 in the gradebook. That is, you know, one way. I mean, you can still edit it and change it and update that grade if they turn that assignment in late, but it will be a way for you to let them know that that assignment is, you know, in the negative side now. You can do the same thing for late submissions. So if I say I want to apply a late submission, I could subtract 2% per day. The choices here are day or hour. So I can imagine you might do one for an hour if it was a quiz that's due on a specific time. But I could subtract 2% per day down to, say, 80%. So they get a deduction until they reach a certain point. So that is the late policy and missing policy. The guides are on this tab. So there's more information here about applying those. I do want you to notice that there is a grade posting policy here that you can apply globally. I don't recommend that you apply the manual grade posting if you're using quizzes. I mentioned this before. The automatic quizzes, the grades stop posting if you have it set to manual. So I do recommend using it column by column. On this tab, we have the ability now to override the final grade. So when this isn't checked, I'm going to go ahead and update. If I scroll all the way to the farthest most column, the grade totals in this column, let's see if I can get that a little wider. There we go. The grade totals in this column are the ones that are actually calculated by Canvas. And maybe we're at the end of the semester, or you've got some other items that you're using in the grade calculation, but those assignments aren't necessarily in Canvas. You can go in now and you can override this grade. So if I click that and I click on advanced and I say allow final grade override and I update that, I'm going to need to refresh this page, because Canvas won't reload the gradebook with that column until I refresh it. Now, if I scroll all the way over, I have a grade that I can just enter here. So I can give my students the grade that I want to display in the gradebook. So that's handy. Especially sometimes we're using publisher tools, or we're doing some grading that is, you know, not even associated with Canvas. It's in a publisher tool or a third-party tool, and we just need to be able to give them a quick grade so they can see how they're doing in the course. That's a quick way to give them the information that they need. I'm going to just go on. Okay, we're ready to move on into the Speedgrader. So the Speedgrader is Canvas's tool that allows you to provide feedback directly to students. So I'm going to go back into my course, and I can get to the Speedgrader a couple of ways. So you can find the column in the gradebook, and you'll notice that some of these assignments have it looks like a little page with an exclamation mark next to it. That is Canvas telling me that I have an assignment there that has been submitted but not graded. So you'll see that in a few places. So this is submitted, not graded. So if I click into the grade tray here, so if I click, there's a little door with an arrow on it, and that's going to open up the tray for that particular student, and I can get to the Speedgrader right here. So one way to get to the Speedgrader is through the assignment tray for the student, if there is an assignment that needs to be graded here. The way I usually get to the Speedgrader is through the assignments page. So I am going to click the assignment title, which will take me back into the assignment. And over here in the right-hand sidebar, it tells me how many submissions I have to attend to. It's going to tell me that I can get to those through the Speedgrader right here. I will point out as well that that if you're the instructor in a course, it also is going to tell you up here that you have assignments that have been submitted that need to be graded. So I don't think I'm in this course as an instructor, I'm just an admin. So I'm going to go back to the assignments page and find that assignment that I had something to grade in. Okay, so I'm going to just pop right into the Speedgrader from here. The Speedgrader opens a whole nother interface in Canvas. It loads the student's papers. So if the student submits this paper as a file, so it would need to be a doc, docx, PDF, RTF. There are a number of file formats that are accepted. I'll add that to these slides. So that's something I'm going to do right here before we finish. File format. I'm going to add that to the slide, so we'll have a link right to that on the slide deck here that talks about the file formats. So if you load it as a file, it's gonna give you annotation tools. You can annotate directly within the paper. The Speedgrader has up at the top right has a list of all my students. So I can click this drop down arrow and I can view every student in the course. I can click between the students with these forward and backward arrows. I can have it sort just by section. So I can have it just give me my 9 a.m. section or my 11 a.m. section if I'm grading by cohort. The green check mark indicates that I have finished grading for that student. The orange indicator indicates that there's a submission waiting for me to handle. If any of these students were grayed out, that would indicate that they had not yet made a submission. This particular assignment has Turnitin running with it. This is my Turnitin score. If I click there, it will take me into the similarity report for Turnitin. I had already graded this assignment, so this grade was already existing. I just uploaded this morning. My student submitted late, so even though I had this in and had it in as a 0, I can go back in and regrade it. So I do want you to notice that this is graded with a rubric. So if I click view rubric, here's my rubric. This is something that I loaded in the assignment, and I don't have a lot of real estate here to view my rubric. So I want you to notice that there are these 3 dots right here in the middle of the page between the page view and the rubric view. If I click that and I drag it over, I can give my rubric more real estate and my paper less real estate. So now I can see the entire paper, which sometimes is easier to grade when I can view all of the paragraphs at once, and I can view my rubric. So I'm going to grade with the rubric. So you just click to put the grades in the rubric. You can leave inline comments in the rubric. So if I click right here, this is going to be in rubric comment. I'm going to show you at the end where the students view all of these comments. So that's a little quirky too. So there's a comment in the rubric. I'm going to finish with my grading here, and I'm going to say save. Now, I didn't set this rubric up to be the grading rubric. This is just a rubric that is giving my student feedback. So there's 2 ways you can set up a rubric. You can have it so that it automatically updates the grade, or that it just gives them feedback. And this one is set to just give feedback. So I'm going to actually go ahead and put in my new grade here. So 24, and down here I can add overall assignment comments. So I can use type, comments. I can attach a file. So if the way that I grade is to download a Word doc, there's a download button right here. I can download this, make my comments in Word using Word's markup, and then re-upload that file as a file attachment. So whatever workflow works best for you, Canvas can generally accommodate that. So you can also leave a media comment, so you can do audio. an audio file or a video file for a comment submission. So I'm going to make that comment submission there. So I've now sort of finished in the left-hand area. I'm going to go ahead and give myself more room over here. And I'm going to make my comments that are inline comments. So this is sort of the real power of this Speedgrader with a file submission. So if a student has submitted a file and the file is displayed, I can use a highlighting tool. I can select a color. It's going to recognize the text and let me put in another comment here. I can drop a pin. So maybe I just want to talk briefly about something that's happening right there. So that's another comment. I can strike through. So maybe this part of this sentence is repetitive. I can strike through. I don't have to add a comment with strike through. I can just use the strike through tool. I can freehand. So if this is math problems, I could, circle an equation. If they've submitted a picture of a piece of art, I could, circle something and say very nice. So you can use the freehand here. You can change the size of the line. You can change the color of the line. So now we're on to the box. So this box is going to select a whole area of text. So maybe this sentence, this area right here, needs citation. So maybe they quoted somebody and failed to cite appropriately. So those are the Speedgrader annotation tools. If I go back and click on the arrow, I have control of my mouse again to do things like delete. So I can delete that whole scribbly mess. I can delete just the comment and leave the highlighting. So those are the options with the Speedgrader. Now that I've made these comments, so I have inline comments that are made as annotations in the Speedgrader. I've got rubric comments and I have some overall comments. Let's go in and see what this looks like to my student. So I'm going to just log in as this student. So the man behind the magic here, I'm just going to sneak into Canvas as this student. Okay, so this is the way that the students view the assignments index page. So their view is slightly different than your view. The view that the instructor has is it's going to be divided into the categories that we put on that category, on that assignment index page. So that is not the default view that students see. They have the ability to see that, but by default, the students' grades are sorted by date. That's what makes sense for students. So they've got this list of upcoming assignments. These are all of the assignments that have been put into Canvas that are undated. And then below that are assignments that have gone past their due date. So that's kind of a way to bring an algorithm that is bringing the assignments that are coming up to the forefront. The other thing I want to show you in this student view is this to-do list. So anything that you put a due date on in Canvas, so that's an assignment, a discussion, and a quiz, and a pages. Now you can add a to-do date on a page. It's going to populate on this list, and a lot of students work from this list. So I do recommend that even if you're adding an extra credit and it doesn't have a real due date, that you want to put in a date that it gives them an indicator that it's something they need to take a look at by a certain time. So I do recommend that you use due dates. I think the top 7 are going to appear on this list, the next 7 things. So it's not an all-encompassing list. And as they make submissions, so if I went into this as a student and made this submission, it would drop off my to-do list. So that's a handy feature that Canvas has to try to help students organize when they need to work on things. But this is the feedback area. So This is where I just graded that project proposal for this student, and they can see their grade right here. They got a B, and they can see the overall comments. But that's all they can see on this front page. If we want them to view their other assignment comments, they need to click into this feedback. And right up here, if they click show rubric, it's going to open up the rubric where I put the indicators here. The rubric comments are going to be in line right there within that. So this is going to help them with, you know, improving their work here with this rubric. I'm going to go ahead and close that. If they want, the overall comments are loaded right here. To view the annotated comments, they have to click this button that says view feedback. So when I click view feedback as a student, it's going to load that document in this window. So here's the document that I turned in as this student, and here are all of my instructor's notations. So that is how students can view comments in the Speedgrader. So I think there's just one last piece here, and that is importing and exporting the gradebook. So if your grading workflow is that using Excel to do some grade calculations or to enter your grades, you can absolutely use Excel in combination with Canvas. So you can set up all of your assignments here, and then if you go here, you can export the gradebook. You can enter all those grades in those columns, and then you can re-import the gradebook here. So that's it. That is the Canvas Speedgrader and Gradebook overview. Thank you.